But first, here in Washington, the White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. Reince, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Good morning, Chris.
The Senate, as we were just saying, is taking up repeal and replace now. They're talking about a major rewrite that could take months. Take a look.
Write its own bill. I mean, that's the way it works, right? And so they'll pass theirs, we'll pass ours, and then we'll go to conference. I don't think that the House bill necessarily predicts what is in the Senate bill.
But Congressman Dave Brat, a member of the House Freedom Caucus, warns they better not change it, the House bill, one iota. If they change it, you're not going to have 218, a majority you need, of votes in the House. Reince, given the fact that it barely passed the House, what does the president think of the Senate making major changes and, according to them, maybe taking months to do it?
Well, first of all, he thinks that, and I think a lot of people think that this is a binary choice. It's a binary choice between what we know is a collapsing system, offering no options, no coverage, and getting to a place that's calamitous for Americans across the country, or a system in place that offers coverage, offers lower premiums, offers options. And we started the process, I think, faster than anyone expected in the House. That's what the president understands, and that's what he believes. Now, we also believe that it's up to the Senate, if there are improvements to be made, to make those improvements. Now, I talked to 6 out of the 12 members of that Senate committee yesterday.
The working group?
The working group, including Leader McConnell and others. And everyone is excited and ready to go to work and take the time necessary to look at the bill, make improvements where they need to be made, and then the bill will be brought back for conference, but most likely.
But I'm asking you for a practical political question. This barely passed the House with just one extra vote. It was a very delicate coalition. If they make major changes in the Senate and they take months to do it, doesn't that risk nothing ever getting through Congress?
No, I don't think so. I think that everyone is committed to getting this thing done and getting it done as soon as possible. I don't think anyone's going to be beating down the door of this group of 12. I think we want to let them do their work, let them work this out. They're all very mature. They all know what's going on. They all know the commitments that we've made to the American people to repeal and replace a failing program in Obamacare. So I'm excited about where we're at. The president achieved something that no one thought he would. I think we were right to give the Congress an attaboy in the Rose Garden, but we also know that this is just the beginning. It's the first step.
Let's talk about the commitment that you've made. During the campaign, here's the promise that the president made to voters about Obamacare. Here it is.
I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not. Everybody's going to be taken care of much better than they're taken care of now.
But here are some of the features of the House bill. Under Obamacare, older people, let's say 55 to 64, could be charged 3 times as much as younger people. In the House bill, it's 5 times as much or even more. Under Obamacare, people with pre-existing conditions could not be charged more. In the House plan, if states opt out, folks with pre-existing conditions can be charged more. Given all of that, can you really stand by the president's pledge that everybody will be taken care of?
Absolutely, Chris. And if you break this down, and I'll be very quick, in this bill on pre-existing conditions, 176 million people across this country get employer-based insurance. This does not affect pre-existing conditions for those people. Number 2, it doesn't affect pre-existing conditions for Medicare recipients. It doesn't affect pre-existing conditions for Medicaid recipients. So now you're down to about 9.5 million people, and it doesn't affect anyone with continuous coverage. Even if a governor, which I'm not sure that's ever going to happen, takes the waiver option, it wouldn't affect anyone with continuous coverage. Now let's just assume that there are some people that might not have continuous coverage. They might not be on Medicare. They might not be on Medicaid. They might not have employer insurance.
There are millions of people who fall into that.
And the governor takes a waiver. We've put billions, not millions, billions upon billions
over 5 years
into high-risk pools to buy down any premium that they would have to pay for. And that's just in the House bill. What this tells you is that when President Trump brought Billy Long, Fred Upton, Greg Walden, and Dr. Burgess into his office last week and said, fellas, let's work it out. Let's make sure that this pre-existing condition is taken care of. President Trump made it happen, which should show every American how committed he is to making sure that if you have a pre-existing condition, this president is not going to let you down.
Okay, you're talking about that narrowly. There are arguments against it. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But here's the broader point. The CBO released an analysis of the last bill, and let's put the stats up on that. By next year, the CBO said 14 million people covered under Obamacare will lose their insurance. By 2026, 24 million people will. That's not taking care of everybody as the president promised.
Well, first of all, we don't buy that CBO score. I mean, everyone instantly isn't going to come off of insurance, as that CBO score would indicate. We're also going to have more options for people. They're going to have different levels of options for people. The pre-existing conditions are going to be
rolling back
down.
Medicaid.
The high-risk pools are
older
going to be
people are going to end up paying 5 times as much or even more.
And by the way, that's the old bill. That's before. That
part of it
the
stays.
Amendments. But that's before the amendments were put in, and it's also before the Senate takes the bill and makes it even better, Chris. The point of all of this, and instead of getting into weeds, is that go back to the beginning. And if we go back to the beginning, we have 2 options. Continue down the road we were on with a failing, collapsing system that most people don't think is going to work if you poll it, or start the process with a better system with more choices, more options, lower premiums, keep your doctor, all the things that President Trump promised. We started that process. We got it through the House. And now it's off to the Senate. We will get this done. We will repeal and replace Obamacare and give Americans a better product. That's what the president promised.
Let's talk about another aspect of this. Democrats say that the House bill will be a big drag on Republicans politically in the 2018 midterms. Here is House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi.
You have every provision of this bill tattooed on your forehead. You will glow in the dark on this one.
As we pointed out, House Republicans are right now facing angry voters at town halls this weekend. On Friday, the Cook Political Report, which you know well, the kind of unofficial Bible assessing House races, shifted its assessment of 20 seats now held by Republicans in the direction of Democrats. I'm not saying they're going to win them, but that they're more likely for Democrats to win. You could lose your House majority over this.
Yeah, these are the same people that said that Donald Trump wasn't going to run and he ran. He wasn't going to win the primary and he won the primary. Donald Trump couldn't win the general. He won the general. He couldn't get health care repeal and replace through the House. He got it through the House. Look, the fact of the matter is there are some times in life you have to do what's right. Not what's politically expedient. We believe this is going to be a better product, and by the time that people see that the premiums are lower, that it's a better service, there are more options and more choices, they're going to reward the Republicans that stood up and said, we're not going to see the Obamacare system, which is failing and collapsing, continue any longer. We're going to do something better, and we're going to do our job as legislators to get this thing done. I think that the Republican Party will be rewarded.
Okay, let's turn to another subject. Congress passed a budget this week to keep the government funded until October. President Trump said it was a, quote, big win. Democrats, as you know, say that they rolled him and the White House. Well, let me put it up. There's no money for construction of the border wall the president wanted. The bill continues funding for Planned Parenthood and sanctuary cities. And while you did get more money for defense, you didn't get the big domestic spending cuts you were calling for. Didn't they get more out of it than you guys did?
I don't think the Democrats got almost anything out of this thing. I mean, they lost, first of all, let's back up. They lost their parity rule, which means for every $1 increase in military, you have to have an increase in domestic. They lost it. That's one of the biggest colossal failures of the Democratic Party that no one's talking about. Number one, they lost on military spending. We've got one of the biggest increases in military spending in the history of these increases. Number two, for the first time in 6 years, our military going to get a raise. We got $1.5 billion that we can do work on the border, including 20-foot bulgar walls that are going to go up where fence is existing today. We're going to be able to buy the property that we need to continue the wall moving forward.
But are you willing to have
levee walls, which if you've seen pictures of
the
levee
president
walls,
talked about a shutdown, a possible shutdown in October. Are you going to go at this? Are you going to go at this tougher in October?
I'm not even done yet. They didn't get their CSR payment. They didn't get any extra money.
You know about you talked about being in the weeds. We're in the weeds.
Right. But what I'm trying to tell you and American people is that look, President Trump's agenda moved forward in this budget, and he moved forward in this budget big league, as he would say. Now, as far as the fight coming down the pike in September, we're going to be ready for that fight, and we're going to make sure that President Trump's priorities continue.
Okay. Speaking of the budget and the president's priorities, the president talks about fighting the opioid drug epidemic, but in a new budget proposal. He's promising to gut, or proposing to gut, the White House office of the drug czar. And I want to put this up on the screen. Funds for the drug czar's office would be cut 95%, eliminating its two major programs. And the acting drug czar, Rich Baum, emailed the staff of this White House office, these drastic proposed cuts are frankly heartbreaking. Why on earth, when you say that there's an epidemic and you're fighting it, would you cut the drug czar's office 95%?
First of all, that's a leaked document, and I will tell you that nothing is final in this debate and discussion in regard to this particular issue in this particular office.
The drug czar takes it pretty seriously.
Well, it's great. Good for the drug czar, and I'm happy. I mean, he should take it seriously. That's his job. Secondly, we have duplicative services in this regard all over the place. You've got it in the Department of Justice. You've got it in HHS. And so that's the first level. But secondly, I don't think any president showed more commitment in the first 100 days in regard to tackling opioids, putting a commission together, obviously putting Governor Christie in charge.
I understand, which is why people are so surprised about the drug czar's office being cut.
So what I would say is, again, back to the beginning. It's a leaked document. Nothing's finalized. There's work being done at HHS and DOJ. I would always tell people, judge President Trump's by his actions, not leaked documents and hypotheticals. And the actual actions of this president is a total commitment to this epidemic across this country.
Finally, and we got about a minute left, the New York Times had a front page story yesterday that talks about you and how much you had riding on passing Obamacare repeal and replace through the House. I want to put up, I'm sure you're going to love these quotes. They report you viewed it as a personal make or break moment. Another big loss on health care would probably have been an unrecoverable blow to an already weakened Mr. Priebus. So other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, true?
No, but I remember the last time I was on your show, there was another quote from the New York Times, and I think it was something on the lines of that the person that people are pointing to most for the failure of Obamacare was Reince Priebus. And I kind of joked, I think at the time, I was like, so when it passes, am I going to be the one person in America that gets all the credit for the passage? Of course not. And the president knows that. It's ridiculous. One person in the West Wing among thousands of participants, it doesn't make or break. The point of the point of it is, it was a team effort, but it was led by our quarterback, President Trump. And I can say with assurance to everyone, without President Trump, and I think the Speaker would say this, and everyone in between, this would have never happened and got out of the House. He did it. He brought people together, and it was a leadership that we haven't had for 8 years previously to get these kinds of things.
The White House, the New York Times accused you of being a nice guy, which only in Washington would be considered a character flaw. How do you plead, Mr. Priebus?
I think I'm a nice guy, but I didn't get here by accident.
Good answer. Reince, thank you. Always good to talk with you. Thanks for your time this weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.